For 50 years, Pink Floyd made more music than the world has heard. Not alternate takes or stray demos, entire ideas, entire albums, sprawling soundscapes, abandoned songs and moments that were too fragile, too raw or too personal to ever be played again. Many of these recordings were forgotten as the band headed on. Others were lost on the endless shelves of Abbey Road. But a sizable part, according to people who were actually there, was just carefully stashed away. A long-standing rumor among engineers is that Pink Floyd maintains an unofficial archive, a private vault of tapes through which they have maintained a successful career. One engineer who was with them in the 1970s said, "You'd open a drawer and come across reels nobody else had ever played over in years. Some didn't even have titles, just dates and cryptic notes. That was like uncovering buried treasure." This isn't a fantasy. Several producers have suggested there would be tapes, recorded, logged, boxed out, never to be recovered, never to be spoken of again, behind it all. Nick Mason once joked when asked about unreleased material, "There's probably enough noise in the vault to frighten small children." A joke, perhaps, but each joke masks a truth. And so the vault is more than a physical station. It becomes a symbol of all Pink Floyd never got done, never approved of, never released into the light. And it starts with the most enigmatic figure in the band's past. Syd Barrett's sessions are the soul of the vault's folklore. At the beginning, he was the band's model singer, the strange and weird smile-wearing psychedelic poet. But once his psyche fell apart, recording with him became a bit erratically erratic. Takes drifted, tempos slipped, and the band struggled to trap whatever they felt they could push forward from. But they kept the tapes. They kept all the early drafts and half-spoken vocal tests, all the fragmentary demos when they captured Syd's brilliance and disintegration. But nearly none of this was released. Producer Peter Jenner once said, "We recorded hours of Syd. Some of it was beautiful, some heartbreaking. A lot of it, no one felt comfortable putting out. In certain takes, he was barely holding on," another engineer later said. "Those tapes are kept safely away from view, out of respect." Among whispered titles are early versions of Vegetable Man, Scream Thy Last Scream, and long, unfiltered instrumental explorations from 1966 and 1967. There are also whispers of acoustic songs, like Syd's, that were played into a microphone late at night when everyone else was out, the only sounds that may now exist on unlabeled reels deep in a private collection. Roger Waters has still said, "There are Syd recordings that should remain private. Not everything was meant to be released." And perhaps that's why this part of the vault is so enigmatic, because it contains the tale of a genius mind-cracking as it happens. In 1973, Pink Floyd wanted to break out of the mold after the astonishing success of The Dark Side of the Moon. Or so they thought of an angle so outlandish that it almost verges on the mythical. An album composed entirely of non-musical things: wine glasses, aerosol cans, rubber bands, knives scraping metal, bottles being struck like bells. They spent months recording strange sounds in a studio. One producer put it thus: "It sounded as though the carpenter shop in town was having a nervous breakdown, but the band had been quite serious about it. They recorded drones that are made from air moving across glass rims, percussion made from chopping wood, bass notes made by stretching rubber bands across a table." Some of this material would become the atmospheric start of Shine On You Crazy Diamond, but the other half of the project, Household Objects, is locked away. Nick Mason once said, "There are tapes of that project somewhere. We just lost the will to finish it." He wasn't joking. The band scrapped the idea when they discovered that playing household items took longer than the actual songs they wrote. The tapes were boxed up and labeled and shelved and never touched. Just a couple minutes have been released. The rest is gathering dust, biding its time for someone heroic or stupid to crack open those reels again. Of all the mysteries in the Floyd vault, none has caused so much confusion and so much public squabbling than the missing Animals multitracks. When the first 5.1 surround sound remix was announced, people were ecstatic. But over the years, it soon became obvious something had gone wrong. Key multi-track tapes were missing. Entire guitar lines, vocal layers, and sections of raw instrumentation were missing entirely. In an interview, James Guthrie, who has worked with the band for decades, said, "Some of the tapes weren't where they were supposed to be. Others had deteriorated. It was a mess." But the technical problems were just half the story. Roger Waters and David Gilmour squabbled publicly about liner notes, royalties, and the release strategy. "The mixes came years ago," Waters said. "The holdup wasn't technical." Gilmour then did not approve certain additions. The result was a stalemate that frozen the Animals' 5.1 project for years. And now, engineers quietly fear certain tapes have been lost forever, perhaps misplaced somewhere in the vault, perhaps mislabeled, perhaps irreparably damaged. If indeed the tapes have been lost, or tucked into a dark corner hiding behind a pile of faded boxes, continues to be one of Pink Floyd's most beguiling enigmas. Pink Floyd didn't simply put a classic album out there. They documented concepts that wouldn't land, sketches of songs, emotional meltdowns, videotaped disputes, whole projects left to dry. There are unused wall demos with lyrics that were thought to be too personal or too dark. We've got one early recording of the final cut songs before the band splintered. There's the Big Spliff ambient sessions, huge clouds of sound recorded during the Division Bell years, much of it unreleased. Engineer Andy Jackson once said, "There's an entire ambient album in the vault. Whether it ever comes out depends on the estates." And on top of an unfinished album that was recorded between Animals and the Wall, a kind of transitional body of work that the band dropped because it didn't fit with Roger Waters' vision for coming of age. Other records were rejected simply because the band did not like them. Some were simply too controversial, or those that showed things more revealing. A few had people dropping them or saying, "This band Pink Floyd has turned away," for Pink Floyd had changed completely.